A Democratic state lawmaker now has serious concerns about the possibility of a U.S. constitutional convention and wants the California legislature to withdraw all of the state's calls for one convention like that.
Governor Gavin Newsom got the state legislature to call for a U.S. Constitution convention last year, but some state lawmakers are concerned as some Republican lawmakers also call for the gathering to change the document that is the foundation of the United States. KCRA 3 Capitol correspondent Ashley Zavala joins us now in studio. So Ashley, what is the main concern here?
Yeah, State Senator Scott Wiener is warning about the possibility of a convention that he says could strip fundamental rights of people in the United States from those related to abortion, the LGBTQ community, and immigration, for example. Wiener filed legislation this week to basically recall any California request that made in the last century for a U.S. constitutional convention, including the one that you guys mentioned from Governor Gavin Newsom that he pushed for last year on gun control. Wiener says California lawmakers should do this before Trump takes office on January 20th. Now, Wiener's concern comes as Republican Texas Congressman Jody Arrington continues his campaign for a convention. Most recently, he said it would be to deal with the country's financial debt. Now, if a convention were to be called by the needed threshold of 3/4 of the states, there are no rules around what could be changed or limits on topics. According to Common Cause, 28 states have already called for the convention, meaning just 6 more states would need to do so to trigger the convention. Here's what concerns Wiener. Now, Republicans will control all 3 branches of the federal government. And out of the 50 state legislatures, Republicans control 28 of them, while Democrats control 18 of them. The rest are split. Besides the original meeting in 1787, a constitutional convention has never happened. Regardless, Democratic states have rescinded their calls since Trump first took office. That includes New York, New Jersey, Oregon, and Illinois. Wiener says California needs to do the same.
We are getting dangerously close to the number of states required to actually trigger a constitutional convention. And although there are many things I would like to rewrite in the Constitution, we're in a situation where we have an extremist right-wing national government. And I personally don't want Jim Jordan and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson controlling what a constitutional convention looks like. It's playing with fire, and California should not be a party to that. And so the prudent thing to do is to just withdraw all of our requests for a constitutional convention, take a breath, and see if we're in a different spot in the years to come. But right now, it's just too dangerous.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, last year, the state legislature passed Governor Newsom's push for a constitutional convention to solely focus on gun control. Wiener supported Newsom's gun safety effort, but he was opposed to that call for a convention then, with some of the concerns he's expressing now around that lack of rules or limits on topics. Now, we asked for a statement from Governor Newsom, but nothing yet. Back to you.
All right, Ashley, thank you. If California lawmakers were to withdraw the call for a convention, the legislation would not need Newsom's signature.